The movement was begun by a scientist who discovered, quite by accident, these signals being sent. Please understand, they are safe as long as they are not discovered.
They want their weapon.
Look out for Charlie.
I want that son of a bitch dead. I want him dead.
You see, I learned something today. At first I thought you were all just stupid listening to this douche's advice. You won't want to believe in it so much. I know you do. We need to recognize this stuff for what it is. Magic tricks.
A lot of people out there are understanding the information that I'm laying down, that I've been laying down. And that's huge because, back in 2014, me saying the things that I was saying, it was unheard of and people couldn't wrap their heads around it. People had their ideas about this. It was really a 1978 view of how this worked. Things have really changed. I mean, really changed. But there are still holdouts out there that can't seem to wrap their heads around what I'm saying, or they don't get the big picture. There's coming the point soon, very soon, where I'm just going to stop answering those questions and I'm going to start ignoring comments like this in one way or another, or I may take further measures because this stuff it's established. We have established this and proved it. So I'm not going to keep going backwards. Have to keep going forward. It's almost like we're getting trapped re-explaining the same things over and over. And I don't mind going back and touching on things once in a while. That's a good thing to do for new listeners and new watchers because there are many videos on this channel. But constantly re-explaining older things is not only tiring, but it's counterproductive. That doesn't mean that you can't believe whatever you want. You can believe whatever you want. But to come here all the time and try to take the narrative back to 1978 or 1983 or 1986, either way, to take it back to the past constantly is just something that I don't want to be a part of. And I just don't want to be a part of it. I'm going to show you a comment and we're going to talk about it. So I crossed this person's name out because the intent is not to personally attack anybody. This is in rebuttal to the Karen Responds video and the Mystery Charlie Theater 3000 video. And it says, I personally think those who say it's not neighbors that shoot microwaves are perps because perps don't want to get shot by those whom they are killing. I can clearly hear the microwave machine sounds, and my above neighbor makes sure I know it's them that shoot microwaves, sometimes so strong that my body feels shock to my mom's head 24 hours a day by hitting heavy object to the ground as hard as she can following me. And as soon as I block the microwaves, I can hear the machine noise gets louder, and she immediately changed the angle of attack. I'm just going to do this the last time. This is the last time I'm doing this. One, you are not getting the big picture, and here's why.
Where you can put fake troop movements a quarter of a mile away on a hillside. Or you can whisper in the ear of a supposed terrorist some biblical verse. I'm serious.
Another thing I'd like to point out is that it's not a good idea to use the language. It has a stigma to it. I'll leave it at that. It has a stigma to it. Beyond that, I'll tell you a story. We have a hallway that goes down the main floor of our house. And at the end are a couple of bedrooms and the bathroom. All right. Right in between that is the floor. And in that area of the floor, my whole family could hear what sounded like a DVD player turning on, like an old school DVD or an old school CD player. When it would start up, you would hear the disc spinning. People in my family would say, what is that sound? And it was under the floor. Well, there's only one thing underneath the floor of my house, and that's a crawl space. I mean, this is a machine turning on. That's what it sounded like. It sounded like a DVD player turning on. At another time, you could hear what sounded like something moving back and forth, almost like an old printer moving really slow. Moving back and forth, right? So what did I do? I went down into the crawl space and checked everything out just to make sure that there was nothing there. And guess what? There was nothing there. It was an illusion of sound. There was nothing above it, nothing below it. The only thing in between the floor and the crawl space is the hardwood floor, the subflooring, and the 2x8s. That's it. That's absolutely it. And there was nothing there. So there's no explanation for that other than frequencies creating the haunted house effect. So when people hear machinery and things being moved, it's no different than a mess of troops up on the hill, or a tank driving by, or soldiers marching. It is the same thing. I've had people contact me and say they're digging underneath my mobile home. I can hear them. I hear the machinery digging. Well, listen, and I tried to tell them, and they got really, really upset with me eventually and just went away. Listen, I hear it. It's there. But it's not there. All right? Sound, if there was 20 feet of dirt between you and them, or 30, you are not going to hear anybody digging. But I'll tell you what can travel through the earth, through the ground, through the walls, through everything, is ELF. And ELF and other frequencies can create the illusion that something is there, that something is operating. And people need to understand the big picture before they just say, I can hear this. I mean, if you're not down with that, that is cool. You can believe whatever you want, but the facts are the facts. And at this point, I don't think it's a good idea that you stay at this channel watching these videos if you totally don't believe the evidence. What I suggest to these people that think this, if you haven't already said something ridiculous to your neighbors, is to simply knock on their door and say, hey, you know what? I've got this really weird vibration coming from right above my ceiling over here, and it seems to happen all the time, especially at night, or whatever details you want to use. Can we look in that spot and see what's there and see what could be creating that vibration? And I guarantee you that when you get up in there, you are not going to find equipment or microwave machines or anything in the apartment. But that is how I would handle it. If that is really what you think, and you haven't burned that bridge, then just water it down. Say, hey, there are vibrations coming from this spot. Can we check this out? And I guarantee you, they will work with you on that. You know, people have heard this a lot. I heard large machinery moving around. Well, if that's the case, and you knock on the door, they can't hide large machinery within 3 seconds in an apartment. All right? It is impossible. So that's what I suggest. Other people have came along and said, well, I saw it. I saw them moving it in there. Well, if you saw it, why didn't you take photos of it? And do you know what you're looking at? For all you know, some dude in a band was bringing his half stack in his road case after a show, and it gets mistaken as some, microwave weapon. And that's another thing. It's dangerous to say microwaves because you have no idea what they are. If you can't prove what wave it is very dangerous to be saying you hear microwaves. There's a right way and a wrong way to do this. And this is absolutely the wrong way, flat out. And personally, I would be scared of the person that is spreading fear and paranoia, not the people trying to calm people down. You have to think about this as a chess game. If somebody is spreading fear and paranoia, it's not doing you any good. This doesn't just happen as, microwave machines and machinery and other noises. This also happens as ghosts, ghouls, and goblins. it happens in a myriad of different ways, including other people talking and thumps and sounds similar to every day by hitting heavy object to the ground, the thumping. There was a guy whose video I analyzed a couple years ago, and his walls were cracking. It turned out that the sound was a MIDI snare drum and a hi-hat being sped up, slowed down, frequencies pitched a little bit, and then shot into the room via the power lines. So these really quick pulses were creating these sounds that weren't real at all. It was a MIDI snare drum and a MIDI hi-hat. And that's all it was. It sounded like the walls were cracking. Crack, crack. Like something was squeezing the house. And it just wasn't the case. It's an illusion. It's a goddamn illusion. So this is it. I'm getting past the point of entertaining or even responding to these types of things. I'm just reiterating what's what. And if you don't believe it and don't want to believe it, and you think that the science and everything that I've shown you is bullshit, then just move on. There are plenty of channels out there that cater exactly to what you are talking about. Exactly. There's only so far you can, try to help somebody. There are dozens and dozens of audio samples and videos that I've analyzed of people who thought that there was thumping, walking going on in their houses above them on the second floor or in the attic or on the roof that turned out to be the exact sounds that I talked about, tweaked, and usually musical instruments, hi-hats, snares, kick drums, toms, those type of things that were being played at different speeds and different pitches and being pulsed into the house very quickly off the power grid. And that's what was happening. And it's creating illusions. And you can either fall for the illusion or not fall for the illusion. And that is why so many people think their houses are haunted. It's also the reason why you can't trust a haunting to be an authentic haunting anymore. Because there are actually artificial hauntings going on. And what these do is they drive people out of their homes. These people buy a home, they go $150,000, $200,000 in debt, and then they leave it, fucking themselves up, and they can never buy a house again once they walk away from something like that. And generally it's because of these fake hauntings, which are no different than what people deal with in their homes when they think it's microwaves. These are haunting and ghost scratches. And they are no different than the microwave burns that people wake up with. They are the same in every way. And I know this. I've woke up with them. These strange scratches, numb spots on your skin, swelling, redness, the whole 9 yards. It's all the same thing. It's how you interpret it. It's a choose-your-own-adventure book. It's nothing but goddamn illusions. Now, a couple videos ago was the Mystery Charlie Theater 3000 video. And in that video, this comment was made, and then I said this.
How does a dog get a neurotoxin? It doesn't. So these people are the only terrorists in the United States.
The dog probably had Shmonella and fungal infection that turned into something that was, we'll just say, sensitive to radio waves. And then what can happen is radio waves can make these bacterias and funguses propagate at an extraordinary speed, which eventually kills the living creature that they are inhabiting. Well, Karen responded to that because what I was doing was I was basically asking what the neurotoxin was. And Karen did respond to that. And what she said is, our dog was diagnosed by a veterinary specialist in Gainesville as poisoned by a neurotoxin, but she still doesn't mention which one. And then she says the damage was quite quick, not the fanciful origins as you wish. Now, there is a serious problem here, because what I just said can happen quite quickly with no symptoms. Now, she doesn't state what the neurotoxin was, but let me show you what neurotoxins are. So what I said was fanciful. It's a passive-aggressive way to say ridiculous. Let's just be honest here. Now, A neurotoxin to a dog is any substance causing central nervous system depression, ethanol, sedative drugs, opioids, antidepressants, recreational drugs. You can go all the way through this, and when you get here, you get fungi containing psilocybin. And then it says right at the bottom, potentially any substance causing hypoxia. So what I said is exactly a perfect description of a neurotoxin. And it can come on quick with no symptoms because it can build up with virtually no symptoms. Any substance causing hypoxia in a dog is a neurotoxin. Then I decided to look up something totally stupid on Google. Can fungus be a neurotoxin to a dog? Mycotoxins are poisonous substances produced by fungi and molds that grow on spoiled food. Well, they grow on lots of other things, but we won't get into that right now. There are many different kinds of mycotoxins, which are divided into several families. The most common group are tremorgenic, meaning they contain a neurotoxin which causes tremors or seizures in dogs. Dude, look, the whole point of me releasing that video in the first place was to point out and get people to think clearly. If you are going to have evidence, you have to make sure that it is evidence. Secondly, saying that this is how it happens and it is your neighbors is dangerous because it is getting people killed. Just like the Steve Grogan case. People are getting killed and hurt because they believe something is going on that isn't going on. Just like the comment that I showed you earlier in this video. It is the same thing and it is happening all the time, all due to a big illusion. It is just like the girl that called in on the wedding party that was near her apartment that said she heard gunshots and fighting. And when the police showed up, it was a wedding party. And then later in the night, she called in saying that people were breaking into her home. And when her roommate came out, she came to her bedroom door when she was on the phone and said, "Stop calling the police. There's no one here." And she says, "Dude, they're in here. I can hear them. You know, you're crazy." And then she ends up vanishing and disappearing because she freaks out because she fell for the illusion. And she was totally normal the day before and earlier that day. That is how this works. We can put troop movements quarter mile away on a roadside. We can whisper in a terrorist's ear. We can put people breaking into your house. We can put gunshots at a wedding party and get people swatted. This is all part of the game. And if you want to continue to believe it after 8 years of evidence on this channel, you can continue to believe it, but this is not the channel for you. I am done catering to this. I am done justifying everything else just for someone to go, yeah, but what about when it's already been covered? But Karen will be happy to know that I received an email, a private email from a very irate person. And I didn't sign any contract of confidentiality with this person. And I'm showing the email. I have never done this before, but this is a special case. And the subject is, reply, you're slandering of Karen Stewart's level of understanding. For one, Karen didn't talk about any level of understanding. She just told her story. That's all. And then it's just a link back to my video, and it says, you semi-illiterate, grammar-challenged, narcissistic dupe. For one, this is kind of weird right here. Semi-illiterate, grammar-challenged, narcissistic dupe. Look, if this channel was narcissistic, it would be all about my tales of woe, right? And there would be 50 subscribers and 80 trolls, as I have told people a million times. That's what you get. So I thought this one was so awesome that I wanted to show you guys. And there is no level of confidentiality in email unless I sign a contract. Again, I have never done this before, and I will never do it again unless something like this pops up. It's a special case. So that's the last time I'm going backwards like that. There are enough old school channels, if you will, that you can follow that you don't even need to come here. And that's it for now. Look out for Charlie.
Stand back, mother! We're having a telekinetic battle of men! do do